Stephen, you have the honor of being the only print newspaper here.
I'm in a suit. I dressed up for the occasion.
I mean, my goodness, my goodness. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We appreciate you coming. And I want to say thank you for being here today, and thank you for following from afar. You know, as we approach the end of 2025, it's always important to do kind of a year in review. And as we bring people together, we reflect on all the incredible things that are happening right here in the Mountain State, here at the state capitol, all across every one of our 55 counties. I'll start by saying we know that this year brought some hardships. We had a number of people who died in floods this year, in the southern floods earlier this year, and also in Ohio County, where we had a number of people who just experienced just this once in a million years type of rainfall. It was horrific. And of course, we can't ever forget what happened at the mine in Nicholas County, but also what happened with the West Virginia National Guard, where Sarah Beckstrom, so valiant, and lost her life to a terrorist. And people have really responded, and they've really been praying for Sarah and for Andrew. And Andrew continues to make progress. He says he's got a lot of work in front of him, but he is making progress. And I know that Mom and Dad credit a lot of this to prayer. I do as well. I want to keep asking people to pray for Andrew. Just because he is making progress doesn't mean everything's done. We have to continue to help him along in his more difficult times. But, you know, if there's one thing we showed in 2025, West Virginia takes care of our own. We come together as Team West Virginia, especially during difficult times, and I believe there's no challenge that we won't be able to overcome. Because of that team spirit, in 2025, we were able to accomplish some pretty incredible things for the Mountain State. And while I may be the one up here in the podium, I can tell you the reason why we've been able to have the success we've had is because of the great team that we have around us. We have a wonderful group of cabinet officials, incredible staff in the governor's office, and so many people that have been so diligent pushing to drive economic growth and to lift up our standard of living, increase educational attainment, and just improve the life that people have in our state, so we can really mean it when we say West Virginia is the best place to live, work, and play. So for those of you who are watching, thank you for everything that you do. The accomplishments that we're going to be outlining today would never be possible, not only because of the cabinet officials, but the receptionist, who may be in an agency that doesn't get much attention. If you're in public service, I salute you today. I thank you. It's a noble calling, and I'm certainly appreciative about that. Now, I'd like to emphasize what I think is going to be one of the top line points that you're going to be hearing about, not just now, but in the upcoming weeks when we get to the state of the state. You know, we've put so much time and energy into economic development. That's been our number one priority: economic development, economic development, economic development. We know that the best way to have a strong economy and improve the standard of living is to clear out the pathway to remove all those obstacles that hold us back. And that means having a competitive tax package. It means ensuring that we're cutting red tape very aggressively and that we're investing in our people. And that's certainly what we're doing. I know that I issued the Backyard Brawl executive order on day one, and I think that was very effective. It started to challenge state government and our agencies of the things they needed to do to compete better with all the states that we touch. And because of that, and you'll hear more coming up at the State of the State, we have been able to cut red tape. We've been able to eliminate waste and redundancies and focus at the speed of business. Now, are we there yet? No. We're not going to beat our chest. We're going to make sure we keep going because we have a lot more work to be done. The truth is, we need to cut a lot more red tape. We need to reduce waste and try to eliminate it, and that there's a lot more that needs to be done. But we're making strides to do the things that are going to allow West Virginia to really soar from a business perspective. And that means things that businesses care about, things that people care about a lot. You know, for example, our one-stop shop permitting bill. When that's complete, that's going to help West Virginia cut red tape faster than any state in America. That's big, and we're working diligently to make that happen. You know, we had our universal licensing bill. That's a pretty cool one as well, because we've already seen that has caused significant bump up in the year-to-year licensing that we're seeing with contractors. So think electricians, think HVAC, think plumbing, think other contractors. It's big stuff because we need more people to migrate to the Mountain State. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The number one issue facing West Virginians, we have to grow our workforce participation and grow our population. And so we're starting that process. We have a lot more work to do in the new year on that, but that's big. Then, of course, we passed what I think will ultimately be one of the biggest economic development bills since I've been here, because we're already getting really good feedback on it. That's House Bill 2014, microgrids and data centers. We are on the goal line, about to plunge in, and we think we're going to have some really big announcements coming soon. We're excited about that, but that's because of the work that we did on HB 2014 to set up the kind of regulatory framework that's going to make it easier to locate here. It's because of our 50 by 50 initiative that we're going to talk about. So a lot of the things that we're doing are beginning to pay off. And once again, we're not going to say all is done. There are people that are hurting out there. There are people that rightfully worry about affordability. There are people that need to have better job opportunities. I want to do everything in my power to keep pushing to make that happen. And I'm not satisfied, even if there's one person who's in a position of struggle. We're going to keep pushing, and we're going to make sure West Virginia's economic renaissance continues. So, but we are making progress, and we want to take this opportunity. In the progress report, we talk about that backyard brawl. We are making real progress. So let me show, why don't you go to the, well, let me start, go back again. We're going to start with this. Part of what we've been working to do is we're looking to drive growth. This is critically important. And some of the pieces that we did this year, which are critical to that, were our 50 by 50 plan. And when we announced that, there was an awful lot of support behind it. Since the announcement in September, there's been 1.85 gigawatts of new energy that's been announced. And I'm aware of more that's coming in the near future. This is really incredible because that's a signal that there are going to be customers there, and some might be data centers, some might be other manufacturing facilities. But this, 50 by 50, that's a needle mover. Let's be clear, a needle mover. And we're going to be leveraging the intersection between energy and technology. We're excited about that, and we're going to keep going. We're working on finalizing those plans. That's been a big, big project. Microgrids, I mentioned that. When I came, there are no data centers. Well, we're getting ready to announce some now, and we're really, really close. So, I mean, these are things that take a while. I remember some publications said, oh, it's been 2 months, and where are you on this? Well, we were at 0 before, and now we're about to push some big ones over the line. And I'm always a believer, judge us by what we do, not by what we say. And I have a prediction to make. I think in the very near future, you're going to see some significant announcements for right here. Then we go to licensing reciprocity. Let me tell you, I'm a believer that one of the biggest challenges we're going to have in the next few years is to get as many people in the VOTEC sector to come out and be ready for these incredible jobs. We can employ almost an unlimited number of electricians, contractors, and as we get to on the next slide, you'll see, when we have a lot of these jobs coming, we can see a day where we're forecasting the need of 10 or 15,000 openings on contractor jobs for all the projects that are in front of us. Think about that. That means, and that's going to go on for a very long time. When you start to see what's coming down the pike, we're going to have a need for so many new contractors. electricians, plumbers, all these positions. And these are good paying jobs. That means we have to keep investing in our workforce, and we'll have some more announcements about that coming in for the state of the state. But licensing reciprocity is big. Getting more people to come in, that makes a difference. And then the piece that undergirds it all is to look at ways to wipe out these burdensome, excessive regulations and to remove the disguised taxes that arise when you have burdensome regulations in place. The way that West Virginia competes and wins in the new economy is by cutting red tape faster than any state that we touch. And that matters enormously. So we're working really hard on that. We have some additional initiatives we'll be rolling out. But I want to say that our executive orders and the work that we're doing there, we are making a difference. I'm not going to tell you that every agency has kept the right pace, but I will tell you we're going to keep pushing. Everyone has to be cutting red tape, period. And I'm going to make sure that that happens. But major progress in that area. Now let's go back. Let's go to the next slide if we can. This is important to know. This is a conservative number, we believe. And it shows that we've had over $5 billion in investment since October. And then if you break it down, over $4.5 billion in private investment. You guys see all the names. This is a recap, so you've seen these before. But this is really big, and these are going to happen from everything I've been told. Very important. You look through here, a lot of good stuff. Broadband, I put that down. Now that's the public piece. So that gets that over to the $5 billion when you add that in. That's over 5,000 jobs projected. Now a lot of them are construction jobs, but tell you what, we're going to see these construction projects. I was having conversations last week where we have thousands upon thousands of these construction jobs. Some are going to go on for 5, for 7 years. I mean, this is incredible. But we got to make sure a lot of these people live in West Virginia. They come here, they come for the work, or they come to visit, they stay for a long while. This is really, really important, and I'm excited about that, but a lot more work in front of us. And I think you see the nexus to energy. Energy resources truly matter a great deal, and I think this ties into the 50 by 50 initiative, and we know that there'll be a lot more coming in the very near future. I'm a believer that America needs to keep pace with what China is doing, and China is investing so much from an energy perspective in order to fuel the technology and the data center needs of tomorrow. West Virginia needs to be America's energy state. And wow, this is incredible what we're beginning to see. West Virginia is in a position to take that leadership, that ownership of PJM, and to really be a driver of America's energy renaissance. So a lot of good stuff that we're working on, and I know that West Virginia can rise and meet the energy needs of our nation. Now, the only way all this works is if we have the right amount of infrastructure, right? And so that's why I was very pleased that we were able to add, and I was able to support that $100 million on the transportation side. That certainly was very, very helpful because you need good roads, you need good bridges. We're working to continually make that a priority, and that's certainly what we're doing. So transportation, focus on the bridges where unfortunately the grades have been really tough. Well, that's been a renewed priority for us, and we're going to keep going at it. The goal is over that 4-year period, we make meaningful strides on it. Broadband, well, we spent a lot of time this year focusing on broadband, and I was so appreciative that we were able to announce that $546 million initiative that had been approved by the federal government. So this is terrific, but when you can bring reliable, high-speed connectivity to all parts of West Virginia and about 74,000 underserved or unserved areas, that's a difference maker, that's a needle mover, and we're thrilled to really break ground and make that happen. And that's going to lead to good things for our people. That means expanded telehealth opportunities, expanded tutoring opportunities, maybe just opportunities where people get to stay at home with their kids and watch movies on a Friday night. That's a great thing certainly to do. So we're really positioned to use this broadband investment and move our state to the next level. Now, we talk a lot about fundamentals, and we talked about broadband and roads and bridges, but let's go back to something that doesn't get as much attention: site selection, site remediation, and water and sewer. We're looking at well over $75 million of investments in water, sewer, site selection, and I know that these are not always sexy announcements. They don't always make the headlines in the news, but I'm a believer in focusing on the fundamentals. Get the fundamentals right, and it's going to make a big difference. And that's why when people start talking about, hey, I need all these funds because we have to make sure that we're luring the best companies in, yes, we want the right incentive package, yes, but you have to invest enough in the fundamentals. If you don't, then you're buying a pig in a poke, and you don't want to do that. So water and sewer infrastructure, broadband, affordable energy, wow. And then also this year, we really look closely to improve health care in our state. I think all of you know the statistics in West Virginia. West Virginia, unfortunately, ranks at or near the bottom of many of the major metrics that we zero in on, whether you're talking diabetes, obesity, congestive heart failure, COPD. Well, we think it's critical to make major improvements in this area, and that's why we invested so much time and energy in our rural health transformation application. This is important because I think we can make improvements in this area, and if you have a healthier population, it means we're going to have higher workforce participation. It means you're going to have stronger communities. There's less strain in the healthcare system. When you have that, you have a stronger economy. You lift up your standard of living. You have more resources, which then creates a virtuous circle and puts the money back into helping people get healthier. Healthier people make a big difference, and that's why you saw earlier in the year we created a number of initiatives to help people find their health and to find more purpose in their life. West Virginia led the way getting the crap out of the food. We led the way trying to get more people to work through our programs, SNAP and Medicaid, and we're going to keep going more and more. This rural health transformation, we believe we're going to hear anywhere from the 29th to the 31st of December, and so you'll know when we know, but that's a minimum of $500 million for the state of West Virginia. We're excited, and we think that the monies could be used to improve telehealth, to improve access to care for our citizens, and remove the health barriers that have kept so many West Virginians out of the workforce. So a lot of good stuff coming, but I want to make sure I mention a couple other key things, and then we'll take questions. You know, a few weeks ago, I announced an initiative to make sure that West Virginians get a pay raise. You're going to see more of that come out in the state of the state. But I also had challenged everyone in my administration and the legislature to get to work on PIA reform. And while we haven't been able to do the legislative changes yet that I'd still like to do on PIA, I will say this. The pay raise makes a big difference. It's going to help a lot of people. I believe that our hardworking state workers deserve it. I believe our teachers deserve it and need that in order to compete better with the other states that we touch. I believe that our school service personnel need that. And I think that it's also critical because a lot of people had experienced double-digit increases in PIA for 3 years in a row. Well, not this year. This year it's a 3% increase. And that's because a lot of the hard work that our administration has done, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep working on it, and I think people will find that we're getting our arms around things from a fiscal perspective to make sure we're fiscally responsible here in West Virginia. And those are some of the changes we're making that people will see the benefit. The ability to do a pay raise and to keep that PA at 3% directly relates to how well you can run your budget. And that's what we've been working on because we had to make some of the tough decisions and choices, and we have made them. And I think now you're seeing the benefit of some of the decisions we're making that then we get to invest back in our people. That certainly matters. Finally, in addition to a lot of the economic issues, we have to make sure that we get back to basics in terms of working with our kids. We had a package of initiatives that were designed to help improve the behavior in the schools. I think, Stephen, you covered a lot of that, really important items, because you have to make sure your kids are focused in school, and we've done that. A good package. I applaud the legislature on that. We also know that we've been working to root out DEI and eliminate the woke virus in West Virginia. And so we did an EO that made a big difference, and also a law that I think is still paving the way for making sure that West Virginia is only focused on the fundamentals. I care about meritocracy. You see it in the effort to push back against DEI. You see it in the civil service reforms that we've done. We want to make sure that if you're competent, you get a great job opportunity. We don't care about these other things. We're not trying to be politically correct. We're trying to reward competence, and that's what we're going to continue to do in my administrations. So a lot of great things on the horizon, and then I also want to conclude on this. Earlier this year, I signed the Riley-Gaines Act. As some of you may remember, there's been a lot of back and forth, especially up in Harrison County with biological male playing sports with women. I spent many years as Attorney General fighting that. I want to note for everyone that there's a Supreme Court case, and this results from the appeal that I filed as Attorney General, and that's going to be heard on January 13th. I know I'm going to be up in Washington, D.C. at some point around that, whether I go to the argument or not. We haven't locked down yet, but it's important that we're remembering the fundamentals matter. Men and women are different, and we're reflecting that within West Virginia law, and we certainly want to make sure we keep men out of women's sports. I am optimistic we're going to win that case. I applaud Attorney General J.B. McCoskey for continuing to fight on that, and I know their team is busily working away, getting ready for oral argument. I think they've got a good team, and I'm really excited about that. It's a chance for West Virginia to pave the way again with a big legal victory. So a lot of positive things going on in 2025, but more work in front of us. We're not going to beat our chest, and we're not going to ignore the challenges on the horizon, but I can tell you that from an economic development perspective, from an education perspective, an infrastructure perspective, we're focusing on the right things, and we're going to keep doing that. And I'm excited to work with the legislature to come back again with a renewed focus on these issues next year and be able to get even bigger things done. West Virginia is writing its comeback story, and we're doing it in real time. We're working on the fundamentals. We're cutting red tape. We're focusing on getting faster and faster. Smaller states don't have the same large amount of money as a lot of other bigger states. So you have to be more nimble. You have to be faster than them, not just try to compete only on the money that you have in your treasury. We are competing on the red tape cutting side, and we're competing, investing in our resources. And as I think you'll see in the upcoming weeks, we've got a lot of big stuff coming. It's an exciting time to be in West Virginia. I look forward to working with the legislature and the public in the upcoming weeks and months ahead. And I thank you all for being here today. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I'll start with Stephen Allen Adams.
Yes, Governor. Everything you laid out here, how does this compare, looking back, to your inaugural speech on the steps of the Capitol? Really, it'll be here in just a couple of weeks. Where does this kind of compare? And for what you talked about a year ago, what is it in the short term that you haven't accomplished yet that is sort of what you want to see as the next step going forward?
Well, I think that we've been fortunate. We have been able to accomplish a lot. I think you see some of the lists that are there. I'm excited about the next few weeks. I think today's the 22nd, so in about a week or so, we're going to learn how much money we're going to be getting on the rural health side. That's important because, Stephen, I view that as a critical lever that we have to improve workforce participation. So you're going to hear a lot more about that in the next few months, because everything comes with increasing net migration of population and increasing workforce participation. I think the rural health piece going to be a big driver, but driving workforce participation has to be a renewed focus over the next year. Now, are we making progress? Yes, but we need to make more progress. I think you're going to see more and more initiatives related to that. I'll be honest, Stephen, when I see the potential number of jobs that we're going to need to fill, we have to make sure that we're tripling our efforts in terms of our investments in our people and to get more people to come to West Virginia. And I believe that's got to be job number one. So progress, yes, but until we start rising up in the economic rankings, we should not do a victory dance. We need to be focused on that, and I just want to be straightforward about it. But economic development, and we have to keep managing the budget the right way, right? So we did that this year. We made meaningful progress. But look, there's some long-term fiscal challenges. We're going to have to manage those going ahead. I know we're coming to election year, and so a lot of times people want to spend a little bit more. I'd like to keep managing the budget in a fiscally prudent manner. I'm very hopeful to work with the House and the Senate to make that happen. And, you know, I believe that there's more work that needs to be done to return more money to the people and also to cut more red tape and then just continue to have West Virginia win in that backyard brawl comparison.
Quick follow-up on that, too. Obviously, you know, a lot of your first year for your administration heads is, to some extent, learning where the light switches are, seeing what you all have inherited from the previous administration, trying to put your stamp on things. But going forward, pretty much, especially with the state you all are developing and the plans going forward, the ball's going to be very much truly in your court and in the administration court. So would you say, you said judge you by your actions, not your words, but we can kind of view this administration going forward, you all have a handle on where the lights are?
Oh, I think, look, I'm hopeful. I'm not going to do any comparisons to the past, but we're going to do things the right way, and we're going to focus on the fundamentals. That's what you're seeing, and I think folks know that, and sometimes it's not the sexiest, but it's hard work, grinding it out, and getting things done. You know, if you go back, I guess it's not on there anymore, but if you go back to that list, and what you'll see by the time we hope the State of the State comes, this is just through a lot of good hard work and focus on fundamentals. It's not, you know, we don't have $2 billion to hand out on different things, right? That's not the position we're in. We're going to take advantage of the dollars that are there, like broadband and rural health, most assuredly. But I feel really good that, you know, we've had a good year. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, I'm just one who doesn't like to celebrate while people are hurting, and why we need to do more to make West Virginia even more affordable, and we need to have better paying jobs, and let's keep working on that, right? And I think that's what we're doing, and people should look at those numbers. Some of the jobs that we mentioned, I mean, if you go to the next one. No, the next one? Okay. Ergon. These are jobs that are over $100,000 a year. 25 to 30 people, but 125. What they do is actually, they periodically, when they revamp, they bring potentially hundreds of people in to their new facility, and then you'll see all of the hotels and the restaurants in the area for a long stretch of time be unbelievably busy. It's very exciting because that is a major mover in the area. And whether it's benefits from direct employment, you know, that we're seeing that they're hiring someone, or the indirect with the hotels or the restaurants or the stores when they're shopping. Wow, what a difference. Toyota, well, that's a long-term relationship, a partnership. I don't take credit for that. That's one where, well, we work closely with them and we were very positive, but that's been formed decades ago, right? But you have to nourish relationships and you have to keep that going, and we're very pleased with the relationship we have with Toyota and with the Japanese. You know, the ambassador had come to the State of the State earlier, and that all that paves the way for good discussions that we can have. the diversified, oh, that number's wrong, by the way, I'm sorry, that's 70 million. So please, if you can, I apologize for that, but that's $70 million for diversified. But here's what's cool about that. We're creating a dynamic that we have 50 to 100 jobs at about $75,000 a year plugging wells, which is great for the environment. It's good for taxpayers. These are jobs that should last 20 years. That's really good stuff. So if you're looking at the future, it's going to be a lot more of this. You're going to see data centers. You're going to see a lot of things coming in the very near future. And you're going to see numbers. You asked, how we're doing. Well, if you go back and look at the amount of private sector economic investment, I think you'll find we compare very, very well going back the last 30 years. Yeah, hey, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Tucker County residents are currently in the process of an appeal against the data center power plant in their area, citing fundamental data's lack of transparency on the environmental impact. With your economic agenda, how important is the will of the people versus the corporate interest that can drive this development? Can the people of West Virginia rely on you to support them when they clash with these corporate interests?
Well, I guess what I would say, and with respect to fundamental, we weren't involved early on. There were a lot of people suggesting that was coming with HB 2014. That was different. It was a separate initiative. So I would say this, we always put the people first, period. One thing we're working to do, though, is to lift our standard of living up, and we have to make sure that we're growing. I won't talk about the particulars of anything that may be evolving because I don't think that makes sense. But, I will say this. I don't like to put things in places where the public doesn't want them, right? But I also know that a lot of West Virginians, I think they want to see massive investment. They don't want to be 50th in economic development, right? So I think what you're going to see is we're going to keep focusing a lot on economic development. We're always going to be respectful of the will of the people. I think one thing we've done, which is really positive, we have the safeguards that we get to dictate, right? So, for example, within 2014, we get to make sure, are the setbacks done the right way? Are the trees done the right way? How's the water? What's the space between the place and the school? That's really good stuff. We get to do that. None of that has happened because no one's applied yet for that site under that provision. So certainly when that happens, we're going to be able to do the right thing. And we're going to show the people that we'll always do the right thing. We care about the air and the water in our state.
Yeah, so like an example of this would be with a lot of these, when things grow, housing supply needs to grow with it. I'm sure you'd agree.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, ma'am.
When places like Beckley and our towns grow, you need more housing.
Sure, it's an issue.
Some states have implemented sort of bans on Airbnb and Verbo because they're cutting up the housing supply and making it harder for residents to find housing. This is another example of when the people and corporate interests sort of clash. Would you be willing to, tell Airbnb or Verbo to cut it out,
Well, I can tell you that I know that there are some key parts of the state that we need to facilitate housing development. For example, I know what's going on. There's a lot happening out in Mason County. I think you see a lot of the development out there. And I think when you have projects of the magnitude that we've seen, you want to have the right investment. There's the short-term investment, where people sometimes stay in hotels. And then there's the longer-term investment in terms of housing. I want to do that. Look, we'll look at all various policy interests, but we're going to look at it through the framework of the people, as we always do. I think that's critically important, but we always stand for the people, but we're going to make sure that we're lifting up our standard of living. That's critical. Other questions? Delaney? Nice to see you. Merry Christmas to you.
Happy belated birthday.
Oh my goodness, I thought I could get away from that, but yes, 58 yesterday, so. But it was a nice day spending time with the family, so I appreciate it. Any other questions that folks have? Well, I want to say thank you all for coming here today. We appreciate it. It's been a big year, but next year I'm going to be even bigger, and I'm going to make a guess that next year that list is going to be a little longer. And it's going to have much bigger number. And by the way, that number places us very high compared to past history, the last 30 years. We feel really good about it, but a lot more to do, right? Guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it.